Hello, welcome to Dundro's podcast. I'm Rose Joseph. So, what happened this week? I think it was this week. Was legendary comic creator Frank Miller got canceled over his graphic novel Holy Terror, which we reviewed on this channel for obvious reasons. It's like, Jesus, man. The guy already got in trouble for that graphic novel when it came out. It was originally supposed to be a Batman book, but like DC was like, no thank you, Frank Miller, and he had to go to Legendary, right? I think it was Legendary. He had to have that published through, which is so dumb, man. Like, cause like Frank. It's like, dude, like that came out years ago, and you're canceling now, and like it's not a huge cancellation, because like all it was, like, he got kicked out of some, like, convention or whatever by a Muslim creator, which, not a huge shocker there considering the content of Holy Terror. And the worst thing about that comic book is, if you've seen my review of it, it wasn't even that good. So it's like, man, it's not even worth Frank Miller getting canceled over, but man, I don't know. It is what it is. So, because of that, I decided to pay tribute to Frank Miller, since God knows, he's probably not gonna be, you're probably not gonna be hearing him in conventions anymore. And, well, that, and we're gonna remind those crappy comic creators that cancel him. Hey, guess what? Frank Miller had a lot of movies made based off his stuff. So, which you losers are never going to accomplish. So, the first movie we're reviewing is Sin City, which is 2005. Action noir film, which is 2 hours and 27 minutes long. I'm pretty sure it was only 2 hours, but at least on my Blu-ray it was, I'm pretty sure. Which this film was directed mostly by Robert Rodriguez, but Frank Miller got a co-director, directing credit. Which, how much of the film he actually directed, I'm 100% sure. Also, Quentin Tarantino came in and directed, like, one of the stories. I think it was the story with Clive Owen as Dwight McCarthy. For people who don't know, this is based off a crime graphic novel that Frank Miller created, right? Which I've read one of them. I don't know how many of the graphic novels that came out, but I read the one that had the John Hardikin story, I'm pretty sure, and the one with Marv, right? So the film stars Jessica Alba as Nancy Callahan, Mickey Rourke as Marv, which this film was kind of Mickey Rourke's comeback, because Mickey Rourke quit acting for a while so he can box, and really fucked up his face boxing. Because, like, he was considered kind of a heartthrob, and boxing really ruined his acting career. It really fucked up his face. They kind of didn't need to put the special effects on him, but they went through the motions. You got Rosario Dawson as Gale, Bruce Willis as John Harkin, Clive Owen as Dwight McCarthy, Jamie King as Goldie, and Wendy. Holy crap, she aged a lot. And cause I'm looking at her most recent picture, and it's not good. You also have Josh Hartnett as the Hitman, which kind of sad that he wasn't in the sequel, A Dame to Kill For, because Josh Hartnett has aged very well. Like, if you've seen his more recent films, man, he looks like what he did from, like, the early 2000s, man. Like, holy shit, the guy must be a vampire. You got Benicio del Toro as Jack Rafferty, who also puts a lot of they put a lot of prosthetics on his face as well. You got Elijah Wood as Kevin, Alexis Vital as Becky, Powers Boop as Senator Roarke, who was in the sequel, Brittany Murphy as Shelley, who sadly is not with us, Carla Gugino as Lucille, who plays Marv's parole officer, Michael Clark Duncan as Minute, who's also dead, unfortunately. They replaced him with some actor, I think, in the sequel. Nick Stahl as Rourke Jr., aka the Yellow Bastard. Michael Madsen as Bob. You have Jude Kekeleli as Lieutenant Basilitz. Okay. Rutger Hauer's in this film as Patrick Henry Rourke, who plays Powers Boop's brother. And also Nick Offerman's in this movie, man. It took me a while to recognize him, but I did. Christopher Melanie as Mort? What the fuck? That must be the sequel. Also, Funimation voice actor Jason Douglas plays the hitman in this movie, who gets beaten up and has his jacket taken by him by Mickey Rourke's character Marv. Which that was a funny scene, man. Marv's character just gets his jacket fucked up in almost every fight, and then conveniently there'll be a henchman or a bad guy that has a jacket very similar to the one he wears, which he'll kill the guy and take his jacket. Which for people to know, there's 4 stories in here, right? There's a scene where you see Josh Hartnett as a smooth operator hit on a girl and kill her. He turns out to be a hitman. Next, after that, you get part 1 of Bruce Willis's John Harkin story, The Yellow Bastard, where he plays this cop with a bad heart who's about to retire, but before he retires, he's after this pedophile serial killer who turns out to be the son of a senator. Saves the girl that she kidnapped, and grievously wounds the pedophile, but that pisses off the... he takes both his weapons away, his arm and his genitalia, which the senator character was able to, the father was able to get surgery to repair the damage, and that's why he became the Yellow Bastard, which they didn't really explain too well, but it's a comic book movie. What can you do? So yeah, he ends up going to jail, and going to jail for 8 years. Comes back and encounters the pedophile son. Finds Nancy Callahan, who's a stripper at this bar, at this bar called Katie's, which you'll see throughout the film. What's cool about this movie is the protagonists of the different stories, which most of them end up dying at the end, will have cameos in the other stories, which I thought was cool. Because it's funny because you'll see that character die previously, and then he'll show up and he'll show up as a cameo in another story. Because this film does not chronologically, it doesn't the stories don't take place in chronological order, which I don't really have a problem with that. It kind of does at the end though, where but yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, so he ends up fighting the pedophile, who's the Yellow Bastard, and saves Nancy Callahan, but ends up sacrificing himself. That's at the end of the film, because the John Harkin story, they cut it into 2 parts. One for the beginning, and one they save at the end for the last arc of the film, right? Which I didn't have a problem with that because that was probably the strongest story. So like I don't really have a problem with that. The second story, if I remember correctly, was the Mickey Rourke story, where Mickey Rourke plays this Marv guy who's this like ugly dude, like but like he's a fucking badass. He's like a genetic freak, like Scott Steiner, not Snyder, Steiner, who's like superhuman with the way with the durability that he has. Like he has no problem taking gunshots. You see him jump off a building, right? And like he's super strong. He can bend bars, man. The guy's superhuman. So what happens is he picks up a woman from a bar. This girl named Goldie, not Jamie. Jamie King is the actress. And our boy Marv was kind of an incel. He couldn't get laid because of his looks. He couldn't even buy a woman. So he feels super grateful for this woman for having sex with him. Which there's lots of nudity in this film, right? Right? And what ends up happening is she gets murdered in her sleep, right? And this movie that scene kind of reminded me of the Red Hot Chili Peppers music video Other Side, right? Which probably was inspired by Sin City graphic novel, where like, you know, everything's black and white, but there'll be like spurts of color here and there. Like with Goldie, you know, you'll see her hair, like it'll be like gold. The yellow bastard's yellow. Sometimes the blood will be red, but mostly like, you know, mostly white. Though there's other parts of color where like Clive Owen's character Dwight McCarthy has red shoes, and what was his name? Jack Rafferty, Benicio del Toro's character, his car was blue, so they showed that. And also some of the people will have like blue eyes or whatever. So yeah, like she gets killed and he goes on this quest for revenge where he's out to find out who killed Goldie and who tried to frame him, right? So like he encounters like Rutger Hauer's character, who's like head of the church or whatever in like Vegas or whatever city this movie's supposed to take place in, which it's obviously supposed to take place in like I think Vegas or California, because they have the tar pits with the dinosaur statues, and that's a place in California, right? So like yeah, like he turns out, the Rutger Hauer character turns out to be like the brother of Roarke, who's like the crooked senator, and he has this like psychopathic cannibal, like not like adoptive son called Kevin, who kidnaps hookers and eats them and their souls, right? And like the way Marv gets back at Kevin, it's like really fucking brutal, man. He cuts him into pieces and feeds like the torso, like cuts off his limbs and like leaves his torso for like Kevin's dog to eat. Which this all takes place at the Roarke family farm, which is also the place where you see which is also the same setting that they use for the finale for the John Hargan story. The next story, which is the last one we're reviewing, is the Clive Owen story, where he plays this Dwight McCarthy guy who's an ex-con, changes his face. Josh Brolin played the Dwight McCarthy character in the Sin City 2 movie, which is kind of a sequel and prequel, right? And that story is about this guy who's dating this Dwight McCarthy's ex-con, who's dating Brittany Murphy, who has this like rough ex-boyfriend played by Benicio del Toro, Jack, what's his name? Jack Rafferty, right? Who beats her up and whatnot with, and has the goons with him. So like Clive Owen's sends him packing, but has a feeling he's going to go hurt somebody. So he follows Jack Rafferty in his car, and that's where we get introduced to Old Town, where you have these hookers with guns that run this part of town, where they're allowed free reign to hook and whatnot, but free reign to hook, right, and apply their trade, but they have to pay tribute to the cops, right? They have a troops. But what ends up happening is they end up killing Jack Rafferty because he goes to Old Town looking for trouble, and it turns out he was a cop, which was going to break the troops. What happens after that is like one of the girls is a spy played by Alexis Bledel, Becky, who spoiler alert gets killed at the end of the film by the hitman. So kind of the movie has this what's that George Lucas quote? The movie ends kind of like how it starts off. It's like poetry rhymes, right? Which that's an old trope, but I don't know, I like it. And it's just what happens is she tips off the mob, and the mob send their goons, including Michael Clark Duncan, to retrieve the corpse of Jack Rafferty to deliver to the cops. So the hookers will go to war with the cops, and the mob can go in and take over the location, the Old Town, right? And put the girls to work. So it'll be like the bad old days, the all or nothing days, to quote Marv, right? Which I really like that story though. Like the it was pretty gory, and there's lots of TNA. A lot of girls in like sexy outfits and stuff, which I probably, this was probably my favorite story in the movie. Though the John Harkin kind of was my favorite back in the day. Now it's probably this one because Bruce Willis acting in the first part of John Harkin's story was kind of weak. Though he kind of I thought he was actually trying in the second part, which is the finale, where he's actually trying. Also, there's Frank Miller, I forgot to mention, has a cameo in this film where he gets killed by Marv. Frank Miller's acting in that scene was actually pretty good, man. So I forgot to mention, this is one of the early comic book films where a lot of the movie was filmed green screen, right? And there are some goofy special effects, but I felt like that worked because that made it feel more like a comic book, right? But some people might have a problem with the green screening and the special effects in the film, and they are kind of dated, which I felt like worked in this film, but did not work so much in the sequel, which we're also going to review. But to tidy up this review, because we're almost getting at the 20-minute mark. I thought the acting overall was good. A lot of cool lines by all the different protagonists, which a lot of narration, right? But the movie has that pulp noir feel to it, which obviously the original graphic novels were paying tribute to. Here they also do it, and I thought they did a great job. Clive Owen's narration and Mickey Rourke's narration all worked well. I felt with the Bruce Willis scenes, his narration wasn't in part one. It wasn't too great. It was kind of lame. His act didn't feel like it was into it. But when the second half of the Yellow Bastard story comes up near the end of the film, that I felt like his heart was in it then, and it paid off. So overall, I enjoyed this film. Lots of cool, gritty action. A lot of cool characters. Lots. If you're a fan of Rule of Cool, there's lots of it here, and there's some great teammates and badass action scenes. So I'm giving this film an 8 out of 10. Check it out, guys. If you've never seen it before, I think it's a treat. But like, stay away from Frank Miller's The Spirit, which at some point we're going to have to review that. But yeah, that film was not. It was pretty bad. Yeah, tomorrow I'll upload a review for Sin City 2: A Dame to Kill For. Alright, guys, bye.